ideas that can be used in any content area that are guided from this book. So the author, Jo Bowler, she began her career as a secondary mathematics teacher in urban London secondary schools. She is a British education author with 7 books. She does a lot of research focusing in on mathematics education in the UK, and she also studies a lot of schools in the United States. She is Professor of Mathematics Education at the Stanford Graduate School of Education, and she is currently the research commentary editor for the Journal for Research in Mathematics Education. And so math, more than any other subject, has the power to crush children's confidence and to deter them from learning important methods and tools for many years to come. Bowler published this book in 2010 to educate everyone on the many issues with mathematics education. She believes there is often a very large elephant standing in the corner of mathematics classrooms, and this elephant, or the common idea that is extremely harmful to children, is the belief that success in math is a sign of general intelligence and that some people can do it and some people cannot. Today I will be sharing with all of you a few of the many great topics discussed in this book, one of which will be why this common idea is incredibly wrong and how it's ruining society. So Bowler is very passionate about changing the way mathematics is taught, which I have a huge passion for as well, and it's something we talk about in our methods course consistently, how to change the way math is taught in the general classroom. And her book focuses a lot on issues within the school system in England. However, most United States schools mirror these same problems. One major issue she continues to argue, and I would consider this one of her buzzwords, is that anyone can succeed in mathematics. At a very young age, children are told that they are not good at math, or that it's okay to not be good, and that if their parents aren't good at math, then they won't be good at math. And this idea is continually passed down in the United States and the United Kingdom, and it's a huge issue. And so Bowler wants us to go towards this issue with complete urgency to fix it. Other countries, especially those who score very highly in math assessments, go to great lengths to communicate the idea that all children can do well in math. Teachers expect their students to do well in math, and they use teaching methods to make sure their students do well in math. Every child can do as well in math at school as they do in other subjects if they receive the proper teaching and people believe in them. And this second point I found incredibly interesting. The gene for language development and mathematical development is the same. And then Bowler continues to say, yet for some reason we all expect to speak English, but we do not all expect to develop mathematical expertise. And so regardless of your content area, do not be closed off to mathematics in your classroom. Always encourage your students to excel in anything and everything. So what is mathematics? Bowler gives mathematics the definition of a human activity, a social phenomenon, a set of methods used to help illuminate the world, and it is part of our culture. In math classrooms, a very narrow subject is taught to children that is nothing like real-world mathematics. Traditional math classrooms have students simply copying methods that the teacher demonstrates, and this repetition leads to children hating math and only viewing it as a subject of memorization and practice, which is why many people do not succeed. If mathematics is taught properly, the whole subject that involves problem solving, creating ideas, exploring puzzles, discussing methods, all of this is grasped more easily. Many more children could become successful in mathematics if they learned to approach it differently. And Bowler goes on through a lot of examples on how to do this in the classroom and at home with your own children. So math is about making mistakes and learning from them. It is about challenges and being pushed to find solutions. Bowler thinks this should be made apparent in the classroom. One thing I will do for sure in my classroom is teach my students about very important mathematicians and theorems. I wish I would have learned more about the history of math going through high school, because like here at Mississippi State we're required to take a history math course, and it is so interesting to learn where everything comes from, and everything just comes together. And if you teach your students that math takes time, mathematicians struggle for years how to prove or disprove theorems, then they'll realize it's okay if I take a while on this problem. And so One example is Fermat's last theorem. It's considered one of the world's greatest mathematical problems because Fermat had this theorem, said he had it proved, and then died. So for 350 years, mathematicians could not figure out how to prove or disprove it. And then in 1994, Andrew Wiles finally disproved the theorem. But if you were to teach your students this, then they'll realize that it's okay to spend long hours on complicated problems, and mathematical problems should be long and they should connect a lot of different areas of math. And Bowler wants mathematics classes to stop being filled with short questions that involve repetition of isolated procedures, and I agree with her. Students need to learn how to problem solve and collaborate with one another because that is what mathematicians do. So as I read her book, I continually thought of the United States Common Core standards, and throughout her book, she has a lot of ideas on what a mathematics teacher should be focused on, and then I also have some of the standards for mathematical practice, and they relate to one another, and there's a direct relation between Bowler's research findings and how our national math standards are written. Her research shows that students succeed more when they have a deeper understanding, and our national standards, the Common Core standards, are trying to focus on students understanding the whys and the hows of mathematics, because this has been a problem in our country for a long time. Bowler wants math teachers to organize productive mathematical discussions, and they should give children some time to discuss math. Bowler conducted a lot of longitudinal research, studying different schools. One school, the Phoenix Park School in Ireland, she went through with these students all throughout their high school career and then conducted interviews years later to see how they were doing. And at this school, she would walk in and the math classrooms would be chaotic. Kids were up, they were talking, discussing math problems, they were enjoying the math problems. The teacher was just walking around and just pushing them in the right direction. And this student-centered learning is how our math classrooms need to be transitioning towards. And these students, compared to the schools she observed that had traditional settings, these students were more successful in life. They had higher paying jobs, they were doing better in their jobs, and they were more confident as people of society. One idea that I'm going to focus on that Bowler consistently talks about is the beauty of mathematics. She shares how students do not learn to love math because they are not taught its beauty. If students are not introduced to the beauty of mathematics, many of them will not be interested. Students grow tired of memorizing and practicing problems, but if they're shown how beautiful math is in nature and all around them, they can be more interested. I've observed classrooms at Starkville High School where the teacher lectures and then the students practice problems. And I had a couple of classes like this growing up, and the students are just falling asleep. They're not engaged, they do not care, they don't see any relevance at all to their lives, and so they're just going through the motions and they're not retaining any of the information. But if teachers focus on critical thinking and having the class discuss with one another, and they do less problems that are harder, then the students will be more successful in their future. Bowler firmly believes math classes should be slightly chaotic, and I do agree with her. One thing I want to do when I'm a math teacher is to connect every concept I can to something relevant in students' lives. These pictures right here are, you can see the Fibonacci sequence in them. And so when you teach students about series, show them the relevance in nature. Because mathematics is all about illuminating relationships such as those found in shapes and in nature. And this wonder of mathematics is often denied to most children. So I have a little bit of research to show you. Up here in the top corner is from the Trends in International Mathematics and Science study, and you can see that the United States, comparatively to all the other countries of the world, is very average. And this is because our classrooms are not giving our students challenging problems. I read a book my freshman year called The Teaching Gap, and it looks at the specific classrooms in Japan, Germany, and the United States, and compares them. And one of the most just interesting things that really stuck to me is 80% of problems given in the United States math classroom is they're low level. They're not giving any high level, you're giving some medium level, almost all low level. They're simple problems. Whereas in Japan, it's almost all medium and a lot of high level, because in Japan they're wanting their students to struggle to learn. They want students to make mistakes, because that is how we learn. But to put a positive spin on this really large graph, this is from the NAEP scores for 4th grade mathematics, and Mississippi was one of the few states to actually have a score game. And so I think that's really exciting that we are improving some, we really are. And if this state continues to learn how to properly implement high standards, we can start to compete nationally. I also researched Starkville High School to see how they improved recently in mathematics. They actually showed tremendous gains in math among the lowest 25 percentile of students, with 90% of them meeting growth. And that is astounding for the low achieving students necessarily to actually be growing in mathematics. And so many Mississippi schools are pushing their kids towards this Common Core state standard mathematical thinking. So I absolutely love this book. It was a little difficult to find critiques, but because the United States is consistently compared to Japan, I feel like Bowler could have also focused on another reason why we're not as successful is because of our home lives. In Japan, the students, they're pushed to succeed, whereas we have a lot of American students where at home, if their mom or dad was not good at math, they're told that they're not necessarily going to be good at math, and then that just shuts them down. But in Japan, they have this overall idea of everyone should be growing intellectually, everyone should be working together. It's a group learning process. And so this difference in home lives affects the way our classrooms and our student success is compared to Japanese students. And another thing, Bowler spends an entire chapter addressing how not enough English women go into STEM fields because girls want to understand mathematics more deeply. They want to know the whys, but they're not properly educated. And I think a different perspective for that, I do agree with her, but like for me, I didn't necessarily have a fully deep understanding in high school, but I wanted to learn more. And so I feel like that there's something missing for the United Kingdom girls, because Bowler even said that in the United States, it's about an even number of men and women going to the STEM fields. So I think there's some disconnect there between our two countries. And to end my presentation, Bowler concluded her book with ideas on how to challenge your children at home with patterns and puzzles. And I want to do the same. We're all pretty young. But like at some point, we'll most likely be raising a child, and to disregard like your own mathematical background, because maybe you didn't have the best of math teachers, but any student can succeed in math if they're pushed and they're properly taught. So always remember, anyone can succeed.